Ukulele Saz, and welcome back to part 2 of Circle of Fifths. What we're going to do today is have a little recap on what we went over in the first part, and then we're going to take things just a little step further, getting you even more curious and allowing you to put these things into action, try them out, and really start to deepen your understanding of the Circle of Fifths. And hopefully this will help you understand music theory that little bit more as well. Don't forget to check out part 1, which will give you all of the basics. Although I give you a little recap here, it is really worthwhile going and watching that video to give you a deeper insight. And if you really like this video, check out my other videos on YouTube. You can subscribe, and you can also get all of the lesson materials and song sheets for all of my other lessons on my BuyMeACoffee page for only £3 a month. So here is the Circle of Fifths right here. The Circle of Fifths is a wonderful little tool that helps us to understand and make sense of music theory. Just a little reminder of what we covered last week. So on the outside you can see all of our major chords, and on the inside you can see all of our minor chords. There's no extra added fluff, there's no sevenths, diminished, augmented, sus chords, simply your major and your minor chords. The last time I got you to see which chords belong to each key, and that is whichever chord touches that chord belongs to that key. So in the key of C, you've got C, F and G, A minor, D minor and E minor. Your relative minor will also have the same family of chords, the difference being that most likely a song will start with the A minor instead of C to make it in minor, and it will probably have a darker feel to it. If the song's in the major key, then normally it's got a brighter, happier feel. And that's really what we covered. I wanted you to experiment, try it out, make a note of songs that you were playing to see if you could figure out which key they were in. So now we know that there are 3 major chords and 3 minor chords in a key. What we're going to do now is we're going to turn that into a scale and look at a little pattern that will help you understand the major and minor chords in any key without looking at this diagram. So the first thing that we need to look at is our musical alphabet. As you can see here, these are the letters in the musical alphabet. We start from middle C, and it goes all the way up to C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B and C. What you can see in between some of those letters is a sharp and a flat. So for example here we have C sharp and D flat. Those are actually the same. We have F sharp and G flat. Those are the same. And a couple of them don't have sharps and flats, but that's a story for another day. Now we need to know this information because when we take our Circle of Fifths diagram, what we're going to do is we are going to order our chords, removing the little letter for the minor, to make sense of what the major scale is. Sounds a little bit complicated, so let's lay it out step by step. Let's take the key of C major because it's nice and easy and there are no sharps and flats. In the key of C major, you have C. The next letter of the musical alphabet, we have D minor, D. We have E minor, E. We have F. We have G. And we have B diminished. And then we go back to C again. So what we've done here is we have written out the chords in order. As you can see here, I've also numbered them 1 to 7. Now there are 7 notes in the scale, but really 8 because we always want to finish off with the note we started because otherwise it sounds incomplete. So the C major scale, we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C. Now you can do this with anything around the circle. We'll come to an example later. But what you do is you start with the root note. We call it the tonic or the root, which is the main note of the key. It's always going to be the major key for just now because we don't really need to know the minor key. Because we know the major key, it's actually quite easy to understand what the minor scale or minor key is as well. So we're only going to work from the major key. So here are the notes that belong to the key of C major. Now, do we remember which ones are our major chords and which ones are our minor chords? Well, let's look at a little pattern. So let's look at this scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B and C. Can you remember which are major and which are the minor chords? Let's go back to our Circle of Fifths. You can see that C, F and G are our major chords and D minor, E minor and A minor are our minor chords. So let's make some sense of that on the diagram. You can now see the notes. Underneath you can see the major and minor chords, and you can also see the numbers. Now these numbers are really super important. The 1, the 4 and the 5, those are our major chords. Those are the first, the fourth and the fifth notes of the scale. You can also see that 2, 3 and 6, your D minor, E minor and A minor are all your minor chords. So 1 is your tonic, you've got your second and third which are minor, 4 and 5 which are major, 6 which is the relative minor, and then 7 is our diminished chord. Now generally speaking you won't see diminished chords popping up very often, but it is good to know they are there, especially when it comes to learning a bit more music theory down the line and playing maybe songs that have got more complex chords. Now this is actually a pattern. 1, 4 and 5 and 2, 3 and 6 will always be the numbers of the scale where your minor and your major chords will fall. You might have heard of the 1, 4, 5 chord progression, or the 1, 5, 6, 4 chord progression, or something similar. You might have heard people naming their chord progressions by numbers, and this is exactly why. And this will help us when it comes to playing in other keys, when it comes to transposing, and we will cover that a little further down the line. So just to kind of summarise, we take the key that we're in, we've chosen C, we start from the 1, which is the root note, the tonic, which is C, and then we order those chords in musical alphabet order, starting from that note, and we number all of our notes 1 to 7. If you can also remember that 1, 4 and 5 are your major chords, 2, 3 and 6 are your minor chords. And that's really the next step. Let's look at a different example. Let's look at the key of G major this time. So G major, as you can see on the circle of fifths, we have our major chords, which are G, D and C. And then we have our minor chords, which are A minor, B minor and E minor. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to start with our root note, our tonic, which is G. And then we are going to put them in order. So we have G, we have A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then back to G again. And then let's do the same thing with the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And which chords do we have? There we go. 1, 4 and 5. So G, C and D are our major chords. And then we've also got A minor, B minor and E minor are our minor chords, with number 6 being the relative minor. Are you realising that music is all patterns and sequences and things can all be super connected? It's quite cool, isn't it? So we can apply this the full way around the circle. Another thing that's really important to note is, in every major scale, you will have every musical letter. You cannot have 2 letters twice. This is why we have sharps and we have flats. So again, as you learn a little bit more, this will start to make more and more sense. In the key of G, we have 1 sharp, which is F sharp. So something that we're not going to dig into quite yet, but I want you to be aware of and start to get curious about. Now, some top tips and things that I would like you to try to help deepen your understanding. With any song that you play, again, write down what key you think the song is in, write down the chords. Start with the root note, the tonic. If it's in the key of G, if it's in the key of F, if it's in the key of D, start with that note. Use your musical alphabet to write out the chords. Number them. Make sure you've got 1, 4 and 5 as your major chords, 2, 3 and 6 as your minor chords, and then we know by process of elimination that 7 is the diminished. I want you to try this in keys that you're familiar with, and I want you to try this in keys that you're maybe not so familiar with. The second thing I would like you to do is I would like you to make a note of any sharps and any flats that you notice in any of these keys, because that is also very important as well. What we're going to do next time is we're going to explore a little bit further those sharps and flats, because there's another really cool thing that you can do with the circle of fifths to understand it that little bit more, and see why those sharps and flats actually are of extreme importance. Also, what we're going to have a little look at is transposing. If you're playing something in the key of C, but you want to change it to the key of G, we're going to have a little look at how to do that as well. As I said, I want to keep things nice and simple, break them down into chunks, because I do think it's important to practice and take time working on these things so that you really deepen your understanding and you know it inside out so much that when we move on to the next thing, it becomes so much easier for you to understand. And yeah, music theory can be tough, it can be confusing, it's not the easiest thing to learn, but that's why we want to put this into practice with things that you know. So use it with the songs that you're playing. The songs that you're playing, make a note, get curious about them, write things down. It only takes a couple of minutes, but I guarantee you if you do that a couple of times, what will soon happen is you'll start to automatically just know, oh, we're playing in G, oh, we're playing the 1-4-5 chord progression, and you'll start to pick out commonalities in different songs that you play and pick out any things that maybe aren't so usual. Oh, we're playing in the key of D, but we're using this chord. It's really, really interesting, and the more you spend that a little bit of extra time doing it, the better your musical knowledge will get. So I hope you found this useful. We've not went too much further today, but I hope this makes sense. And again, if you do like the video, check out part 1. Wait for part 3, which will most likely be coming out in the new year. And yeah, check me out on YouTube, subscribe to my Buy Me a Coffee page if you like these lessons, and I will see you the next time.